Now it seems like these two elements carry almost identical styles. So would it make sense to combine these in some way? Chances are that they're going to consistently have the same text transform, text decoration, margins, and they'll both be aligned to the center. If we decide to change one of those for one of those navigations, it will probably change in the other one as well. So there's a few different ways we can do this. And so let's think about what principles we have right now to help us figure out which is the way that we want to go with it. One solution would be to do this. If we copy this selector and we combine these two selectors and apply all of the same styles to it, and then for the secondary nav, we override our color and remove everything else that's the same. So this reduces our code, but we're having to violate one of our principles, which is not overriding any of our own styles. Right here we're setting the color to white, and here we're overriding that color. Now it's not that we can't break the rules sometimes. We don't want to be too caught up in formal structure that we don't identify ways that we can organically increase our efficiency. But this is a good opportunity to evaluate whether this is a good strategy moving forward. So one way we can evolve this in order to avoid overriding this style here is by taking that style out of the common styles and instead applying it just to the primary nav. So let's copy this selector here. We'll paste it in and we'll cut out this color white and paste it in here. All right, so now we're not overriding our styles at all. We're putting the styles that are common between them here and the unique styles in their individual selectors. Actually, this is a little bit off. Let me copy this selector down here so we can get this right. Okay, now we're applying the color just to the A tags. So this is better, but I feel like we're using a similar model right here to the way that we use components. This navigation seems actually like a component within our footer component. Now it doesn't feel like something I'd want to break out into a separate file, but it seems like we can still use a similar naming convention. So in this case, we could call it site footer nav and site footer nav alt. And then in our styles, we would add all of these styles to site footer nav. We'd apply this to something like a site footer nav default, and this to site footer nav alt for alternative styling. When we do an alternative styling for a subcomponent, which is basically a component that exists with some slight style variations, it's a little more legitimate to override a couple of styles because that subcomponent is actually a variation on the original and it's never going to stand alone. So even though I'm not going to pull this out into a component, let's adjust the naming system so that it's component-like, and we'll use the alt convention to override the color styles of the links in the secondary navigation. Okay, so let's go back to our index.html, and let's adjust the class names here. So we'll call this site footer nav, and we're going to call this site footer nav as well, but we're also going to add the class site footer nav, and then a -- alt to indicate that it's a subcomponent. And now that we've made that change, let's go back to our styling for our footer, and we'll change this to just be -nav. Again, the ampersand is adding the site footer selector to this, and we'll move this color back over to the styles for the A tags. And then we'll call this one nav alt, and we'll remove the primary nav styling altogether. Let's save this and jump back to the browser and make sure we put our pieces together right. And when we refresh, it looks good.